Max Payne is a flying sideways in slow-motion simulator inspired by, when you sit down to think of it, the strangest combination of inspirations that you probably would never think of on your own. What does hard-boiled, film noir and the original Matrix have in common? Nothing! Originally spawned by the Finnish studio Remedy, yes, that Remedy, famously known for Death Rally, in 2001 after years of absolute development hell, it quickly became a hit and one of the most recognizable names in gaming history. Although, interestingly enough, not everyone at the time agreed with Max Payne being this revolution in gaming it is seemingly thought of as nowadays. One of the main reasons being, it was being made for at least 4 years after it was announced. Now, I'm not sure you understand, oh gentle viewer, how big of a deal what I just said was. Nowadays, a game taking multiple years to make seems somewhat fair. And it is, to an extent, particularly when it involves making an engine as well. But what we are talking about is Max Payne starting development at the level of technology of roughly the original Quake. When it was starting development, taking a year to make a game was big. Even worse, the technology at the time was constantly lunging forward. And something that doesn't seem to be talked about, but I feel I should mention, the games going through such a torturous development cycle usually ended up being severe disappointments. Case example 1 through We Don't Need More, the fucking Daikatana. Max Payne wasn't a disappointment though, just not as revolutionary as it was hyped up to be. It still racked up plenty of praise and critical acclaim. That said, I do find it funny how the biggest complaints from Anaka were the lack of multiplayer and the game being a little short. He had some legitimate criticisms too. Max Payne follows the story of a New York cop,
Max Payne,
returning home early from work one day and finding his wife with 3 guys at the same time. And much to his horror, his infant daughter was taking part in the fun as well. All the while the guys, high as a kite on a then unknown designer drug, gave the two some new holes. Unsatisfied with his family's new features, them being dead,
I can't believe this story you're telling me. It's macabre.
Max transfers to DEA, where he becomes a
junk squad plan.
However, he forgets the crucial rule of any proper underworld. Snitches get stitches. Miraculously though, it's his partner that ends up getting the stitches. But that's okay with the mob, cause Max takes the fall for his death, meaning he is very, very fucked. What follows is a story of one man's revenge, his rampage across New York's night, and all this in the midst of the most apocalyptic winter storm in the city's history. And also the last time a game from Remedy wasn't a putrid casserole of self-referential humor. I exaggerate, of course, put down the pitchforks, and let's talk about Sam Lake's smug face enhancing the experience thousandfold. Back in 2018, I went with my father to the USA for 2 weeks. We've started with roughly 3 days in LA, which made me racist, then moved to Vegas for a week, which by the way, merely existing in Mojave in July makes you wish for death. And later, for the remainder of the trip, we moved across the country to Maryland. That said, one day we did make a trip to New York, Manhattan, precisely. How was it? Bloody noisy. The architecture inspires anxiety. The people are rude. And somehow it stinks of piss more than Paris. How's New York presented in Max Payne? It's bleak, dirty, beyond grungy. Rats scuttle everywhere, full of trash, both literal and that of human variety, and with walls covered with Valkyr-related graffitis. And I mean covered, Jesus fuck, we fucking get it, city's got problem with the drug, no need to hammer it this hard. What I'm trying to say is, good job. But it's not the environments that end up being memorable, it's the firefights, or in this context, their results. Every round missing the mark leaves a decal accompanied by a shower of particle effects. Water coolers stream liquid, fire extinguishers go off, material dust erupts from walls, spent brass carpet the floor alongside the magazines ejected while reloading. The attention to detail is fucking amazing. Had something like Fear, another infamously John Woo-inspired game, did the reactions of the environment to being shot better and more over the top? Sure. 4 years later, on much stronger machines. And even then, both titles were quite notorious for pushing your PC to the point of aneurysm when they released. The spectacle of it all is so good it took me 2 playthroughs to realize that door textures in Cold Steel, without a fault, have a padlock embedded on them. Which makes me question, how many such weird imperfections did I miss?
Oh, who gives a fuck? Blood for the blood god!
One kind of imperfection one will surely not miss, however, are the enemy models in general. Every single character model is an unholy communion between the extremely high-res for the time texture with extremely low-res polygonal mesh. And on the topic of the character models and their jazz-bass worthy stank faces, behold, Sam Lake, the story and screenplay writer, who also happens to borrow the main character, his face. I swear, I've seen someone referring to in-game Payne's smirk as the face of someone suffering from perpetual constipation. I can't find the source, but I thought it's a funny way to describe it, even if I myself find the face of Sam Lake immensely improving the game for me. I mean, look at him. His smugness is downright offensive, and I wouldn't have it any other way. That is, unless you fuck it up and die, which exposes Payne as a Meshuggah enthusiast. But let's not kid ourselves, there's one standout feature of Max Payne's visual side, and that's the comic panels telling the twists and turns of the story. Why is the story told through comic of all things? Bugger if I know. What I do know is that both the implementation and the execution of it is pretty damn stellar throughout. But later about that. What I feel I should mention, though, is that while most of the characters in those panels are digitally altered photos of developers and their associates playing the roles, the in-game models happen to show up as well, which is jarring to say the least. Even more so when you have Sam Lake as Max in one panel, only to be followed by an in-game Max, which feels inconsistent. But then again, who am I to speak? While in total good, the audio does have some lows. Sure, the guns sound pretty darn chunky, each footstep is there to remind you you are in America, and each projectile impact results in sometimes a little too crisp audiovisual response. And then you encounter the bane of my hearing, the doors.
Please believe me.
Not these doors, for fuck's sake.
Some SFXs seem to be louder than necessary, and they also seem to suffer from build-up in higher frequencies. Not a big one, but noticeable and slightly unpleasant. Then again, it could be my autism. Now as for the... I beg your pardon. Okay, real talk. I know stock sounds exist to be used, just like your mom. But have you ever considered maybe not using one of the most recognizable grunts used in one of the most popular and important games in gaming history? Was it really that difficult to have someone record a few random grunts for whatever purpose? Especially since they already had people in the recording booth. And speaking of which... the voice acting is practically immaculate, whether we are talking about Max's mostly monotone, cynical delivery of the noir kind narration.
Collecting evidence had gotten old a few hundred bullets back. I was already so far past the point of no return I couldn't even remember what it looked like when I had passed it.
The sheer spastic, whiny frustration of Vinny Gogniti.
What do you think you're doing? You're a freaking cop. You ain't got squat on us. You can't just come in here waving your piece like it meant something.
Insane ravings of Jack Lupino.
She is coming, and hell follows with her. This is the twilight winter. I am ready to be her son. Her time is now, and all who stand in her way must die!
Down to the finest ham coming from the mob goons.
Just forget about it. Just forget about it. Hey, just forget about it.
Word was out. A deadly virus released into the city's corrupt circulatory system. Something wicked this way comes.
When you slow down a little, you will often be able to listen on the conversations enemies have between each other. That brings more life to the world, and more often than not, some much-needed levity to contrast with the dark themes of the main plot. While Max Payne is given thoughts and face by Sam Lake, his iconic voice is given by James McCaffrey, rest in peace, and not, like my intrusive thoughts insist, John McAfee, rest in pieces. His delivery is deadpan, almost flat, perfectly fitting the character of a cynical man single-mindedly on the path of vengeance. But when necessary to inject some emotion, he pulls it off with surprising subtlety. The main theme is one of the most iconic music pieces in the history of video games. What doesn't seem to be talked about, however, are the goddamn action pieces. They are fucking amazing. It's not a constant blaring onslaught though. Most of that music seems to be reserved for, shall we say, special occasions, which is great. The only issue I have is that sometimes they are used for firefights that don't last nearly long enough if you, the player, know what you are doing.
Go, go, go!
One case stands out to me, however, where the music abruptly ends after kicking ass for minutes on end.
It was too late for her.
Another thing nobody seems to mention when talking about the audio layer of Max Payne is the ambience. Max Payne takes place during a nightly, apocalyptic winter storm ravaging the city, and god damn, can you feel it in your bones through the soundscape. I don't know how to explain it, but it's enveloping, thick, ever-present, and foreboding. In summary, while the audio does have some standout hiccups, what's good is fucking supreme.
My lord, I am your long-lost sister!
You remember how I said that if you slow down a little, you can sometimes peek into your enemies' tiny lives and their dilemmas?
Lady Amelia, so tragic. Will they ever get together?
Here's a problem.
Why the fuck would you slow down?
Pun not intended.
Combat of Max Payne has a reputation, let's put it like this, and not exactly a positive one at that. A lot of times I've seen the game accused of heavily relying on RNG for damage rolls, which is not something I really felt in my playthrough, actually, because I played the game on hard-boiled difficulty. Most people's experience will be with the first difficulty level known as Fugitive. It includes the so-called adaptive difficulty. How it works is that multiple modifiers are applied to gameplay depending on how often does the player die. If you die more than 5 times in 180 seconds, the difficulty will be lowered a notch on that scale, otherwise it will go up. Yes, implying that if you died 4 times in that period, the difficulty still goes up a notch. You needed to take a shit and didn't pause the gameplay? You're screwed. Your cat demanded food now? You're screwed. Police bangs on your door to ask questions about the putrid stench coming from your bathroom? You're screwed. And in-game too. Actually, you're screwed either way, because for the death to count, the death animation has to finish first. That's already promising trouble, and then you see what is being modified and how. You see that right, or not, no matter, enemies' HP changes between those difficulties, as well as Max's health. Quite egregiously so. What doesn't help is that enemies have location damage, but everything is balanced against headshots, which deal 5 times the damage of a body shot. This makes me wonder just how accurate the headshot detection is. I know what is going on here. See, none of these hits are headshots. While playing, your targeting reticle is dead on the twat's noggin and you see blood particles erupting roughly from the area, right? Except, due to the bullet spread, all my shots hit the upper torso, and the visual feedback while at first glance is great. Oh yeah, look at those geysers of blood, actually ends up being insufficient and leading to misunderstandings. I can't see that shit in live footage. I've only noticed this when going frame by frame and zoomed like a lot as I was making the animated headshot counter thing. Even now that I know this isn't too obvious to spot. No fucking wonder people get confused. But yeah, keep this interjection in mind during the next few minutes. The damage supposedly has nothing to do with RNG at all. Well, that's the thing, that statement isn't entirely correct. The damage itself is not based on RNG, but the accuracy is. Damage to the head is 5 times that of a body shot. Now, let's assume my suspicion of headshot detection being wonky as correct, and all of a sudden what player visually sees as a headshot ends up feeling inconsistent damage-wise, especially if enemies' health values shift due to adaptive difficulty bullshit. Okay. Why did you mention the hard-boiled difficulty then? Well, you see, hard-boiled has no adaptive bullshit. The values are constant and somehow the entire game feels much smoother. Often difficult as hell, sure, but mostly consistently so. And taking into account that one of the parameters of the adaptive difficulty is the strength of the fucking auto-aim, hard-boiled suddenly ends up being a less frustrating experience, even if the numbers would suggest otherwise. Shit, few times past the halfway point of the game I found myself loading my quick saves without having died because I thought, I can do better than this. I know I usually start discussions about gameplay differently, but this felt important to mention. After all, the choice of difficulty is the first one you make when running Max Payne. Or do you? Because only the fugitive difficulty is available when you first boot up the game. You need to beat fugitive to unlock hard-boiled. I wonder how many people formed their opinions having only played the game once on a difficulty level with wonky adaptive system and how much did it taint the reception. Don't get me wrong, it is my feeling that hard-boiled is more consistently difficult. Your impressions may vary. I'm just sitting here asking, who the fuck thought this was a good idea? But we didn't even talk about the mechanics at all. Let's rectify that. Max Payne in many aspects controls like a fairly regular third-person shooter. What makes it stand out is the bullet time. When activated, time slows down dramatically, each projectile leaving trails in the air. Your moves slow down as well, excluding your aim, allowing player to line up the shot. The effect is impressive. I also find myself rarely using it this way. See, when you attempt to activate the bullet time while already moving in any direction, Max will perform a so-called shoot-dodge instead. Time slows, albeit to a lesser degree, and he lunges into a given direction. What's interesting, while in flight, you cannot die, which is fair and balanced, and Max's model reacts naturally. Remedy did some excellent job on these animations overall. Then you land on the ground, and that's where things get tricky. First of all, invulnerability you had mid-flight is gone the moment you hit the floor. Invulnerability is a wrong word to use here, by the way. You still receive damage, you just cannot die while in the air. Which often means all it takes to kill you once you touch grass is a fucking sneeze. Still, these quirks alone make Shoot Dodge a powerful tool in Payne's arsenal. It has one strong drawback. Once you land, Max needs to pull himself off the ground, during which he can't really do anything. It's what, 2 seconds? And that's enough to fuck you up if you plan your landing poorly. Yeah, about that. I'm inclined to joke that the reason this game took this many years to finish wasn't the engine, wasn't the writing, the animations, none of the above, no. It was some complete bastard of a level designer going through each encounter, finding the most natural place a player would dodge into, and then do one of the following. 1. Have someone throw a grenade into that exact spot. 2. Have an enemy pop out with a delay, so he smokes your ass exactly where you'd land. Or 3. Throw a piano on Max's head or some shit, I don't know. That might sound like a complaint, and that's not far from the truth, but I must admit, the level of being a diamond-hard dick towards the player in encounter design gives John Romero a run for his money. Although I also have to admit, the line between cheap ambush and delightful torture is razor's edge thin. Thankfully, quick save works perfectly well, and loading from last save is virtually instantaneous. That is, of course, assuming you were saving. 'Cause you did, right? There are no checkpoints in this game, unless you count an autosave at the start of the level as such, which I don't. I think with the encounter design being such as it is, checkpoint system would immensely improve the reception of the game, especially in situations where the story puts you in combat with little time to react. But back to shoot dodge. At first, Max's vulnerability after landing actually annoyed me. Then I played through Max Payne 2, thanks Nomad, and you know what? I think I get why that is a thing. Shoot dodge is a powerful tool, and when executed correctly, immensely cool and satisfying too. That's the thing, however, when executed correctly. That window when Max gets up, which, by the way, all animations of that are excellent, is your foe's opportunity to punish you for coming short doing your one trick, you hack. That said, the element of RNG still plays a big role there, cause remember, bullet spread is governed by random chance. It's just that the bullet damage itself isn't RNG based.
It wasn't about how smart or how good you were. It was chaos and luck, and anyone who thought different was a fool. All you could do was to hang on madly, as long and as hard as you could.
Yeah, that's almost like that. Sam Lake, you hack! One thing that I've seen people getting wrong in their coverage, if I may. I've heard people saying shoot dodge is infinite. Technically not true. See this hourglass? It shows you how much juice you still have for your bullet time shenanigans. When bullet time is active, it's being drained continuously. What some seem to miss, however, is that you need to pay a price of this very resource to dodge to begin with. Then again, people probably miss that because the way you regain it is by killing your enemies. With enough shrewdness and efficiency, it's very difficult to actually empty this hourglass, locking yourself out of shoot dodge. Max's health is handled in a reversed way to what you'd normally expect in a video game. Damage accumulates as presented on Max's silhouette in UI until it's too much and you kick the bucket. To counteract, you have painkillers, because a steady diet of opioids is so very healthy, which you can carry up to 8 bottles of at any given time. When taken, they immediately remove some of the accumulated pain, then proceed to heal you over time. It's commendable how much focus and hard work was put into little details that make the world believable, like the painkiller's natural habitat being, usually, the med cabinets scattered around the places, or how Max's walking changes after you hit a certain pain threshold. And I mean Max's pain threshold, the game doesn't care about your feelings. I should also mention that once upon you hit that threshold, your health regenerates, assuming you aren't already dead, of course. The sheer amount of detail in the environment, animations, enemy placements and behaviors, it's amazing, and very clearly a labor of love. It's obvious full immersion was a priority, and I would argue this goal was reached. Mostly. Unfortunately, like with all trilogies, the middle part is the most faltering. And no, I don't mean Max Payne 2. I don't like it, but I didn't play Max Payne 3, so I can't tell. No, I mean the first half of the second chapter. In the first chapter, Max rampages through the seedier parts of New York, fighting exclusively against the Italian mob he was originally infiltrating for the DEA, and with this awesome sense of constant escalation, might I add. The first half of the second chapter, however, abruptly cuts into the fun, ruining the climax, and of course, it's all the fault of a woman. Long story short, Max is approached by the Russian mob with a proposition: do our dirty work, in exchange liberating a huge supply of weapons that would otherwise land in the hands of the Punchinello family. This shifts the action towards the docks and warehouses. It's also where a lot of elements fall flat, just like your mother, approached by yet another sailor with a free bottle of gin. The shift alone is very abrupt already, but it's not what brings the entire section down. The sense of contrivance does. These few levels, reaching towards the cargo ship, don't feel like real places. They feel like video game levels. Worse, they feel like doom mazes, straight out of the depths of hell, penned by Sandy Peterson. I hope he's doing well himself. I mean, do you see this shit? Like, what the fuck is this? Why is this? It's like the game isn't even trying to convince you it happens in a real space anymore. Take a load of this. You approach this office, bam, goon pops out, trying to surprise you. Fine. Enter the office he jumped from. Suddenly, another goon pops into the room behind your back through the same door. Cheap, but alright. Then, this office has an actual early FPS-like secret room hidden behind a fake wall, opened with a switch. In a warehouse office room. In the middle of the Boston Harbor, I think. Cause that makes sense. And as you leave the secret room and the office to continue— oh fuck right off, come on. Adding to my complaints, you aren't fighting members of the Italian mob anymore. No, what you are fighting now are the dockers. Or Boris Dime's crew. Or Russians. I wouldn't fucking know. Unlike their Italian counterparts from earlier, none of these fuckers say a word. They are just there. Just there to be a nuisance, that is, because they are significantly more tanky than most enemies you met thus fucking far. All the while you fight in tight corridors with encounter design meant to deny you cover. At least at the end of this journey you get a fun boss fight.
Tell the devil that Dime sent you.
At least at the end of this journey and violently destroying Mr. Dime a dozen for being a prick, you get
a finger of God.
Does Cold Commando make this struggle worth it?
Fuck no.
The game offers a variety of weapons, spreading them across the campaign. Not all guns, however, are made equal. You start the game with Beretta 92F. Almost immediately you get your hands on the Desert Eagle, which has 12 rounds in the magazine, which— no. Then you get a pump-action shotgun, the most frustrating weapon in the game. Why so? Because from my experience, it doesn't do enough consistent damage when in your hand, while being lethally effective at the hands of your enemies. Its fire rate also makes it a bad idea to use in shoot dodge, as you will likely not fire more than once before hitting the floor. And then, there is the Ingram Model 10. How is it in the game? Surprisingly, the rate of fire is portrayed fairly accurately, although in order to figure that out, I needed to help myself with editing software. Why? This is how Ingram sounds in-game. This is how Model 11 sounds in real life. Besides, I can handle running around with a Beretta in each hand. It is style over substance after all, which is very John Woo. But firing a Mach 10 from a single hand? That's not just silly, it's downright impossible to control. Many a burly man tried to tame this kind of fire rate in package this light, failing miserably. And here we have Payne running around, firing 2 at the same time. Yes, this is even more unbelievable to me than bullet time. And this breach of realism is the reason I totally didn't take each and every single opportunity to erect a wall of lead fast approaching the morons looking at me the wrong way. No, sir. Next thing you'll tell me is that someone would think it's possible to akimbo 2 desert fucking eagles. One final note on combat that I can think of right now is all about the third-person camera. Third-person camera is always a challenge to develop. There are many ways to screw it up. So I am ever so happy to report that the third-person camera in Max Payne is fine. It's fine. Most of the time it works as intended, and in 2 playthroughs I really only had one instance that I can think of when it's acted strange. Most often, if you try to force the camera into a strange position, the result would be a close-up of the back of Max's head so intense it would make an NKVD officer blush. However, I still can't give it a pass. Call it a skill issue all you want, but I feel like I've messed up a lot of my shots while shoot dodging exactly because of the camera. I almost forgot to talk about it somehow, and that would be a sin. But the cinematic inspirations aren't limited just to noir narration or akimbo pistols. No, the use of camera further enhances the cinematic feel of it all. Whether we're talking about the in-game cutscenes and the director's addiction to Dutch angles, or the fact that Remedy actually figured out how to use it in gameplay. Sometimes you will see the camera snapping to the enemy you kill, showing in slow motion how you riddle them with bullets. Even better, you can continue pumping them full of lead. What I often see people getting wrong, however, is when this happens. So many content creators say, oh, this happens when you make an impressive kill or something to that end.
It's false. No, it's totally made up. Pure fiction.
Some encounters are simply scripted to have the kill camera trigger when you kill the last of the group of enemies. Skill or impressiveness of the kill has nothing to do with it, I'm sorry. Otherwise, player would potentially have control taken away from them mid-firefight while they are still in danger, and that is no bueno. You might be confused, but sniper rifle has this fancy kill cam following the bullets each time you get a kill with it. Correct, which is why I rarely use the sniper rifle. But you miss the tricks surrounding those shots. Sniper rifle is slow, and the only actually mechanically hit-scan weapon of the game. When game registers a lethal hit with it, the time virtually freezes for the duration of this animation, unlike in the regular kill cam, where you are still in control and the flow of time is simply slowed down. It's an impressive thing, really. If I'm also seeing how people keep getting wrong how it works. Fuck, I might be getting it wrong. You might be getting it wrong. The QA might have gotten it wrong. Some late hack might have gotten it wrong. And also, coincidentally, I am Alfarius. I should discuss how the game presents its story. It does so in 3 ways. Through comics, in-engine cutscenes, and Max commenting mid-gameplay.
The security panel let out a mocking cackle. I'd need the right code.
One thing I've noticed is how, almost without a fault, the comics section is followed by an in-engine cutscene. Or, to be more precise, how return to gameplay is never preceded by a comic alone, unless that is you are 100% safe at the moment, and even then it happens fairly rarely. This is especially important given the breakneck pace. Comic introduces important story bits, then an in-engine cutscene follows to prime the player for the incoming action and give them a chance to see the field of battle before having to engage. And trust me, the speed with which the story and action progresses is insane, but well paced. The game actually has a good idea when to leave some breathing room so the player doesn't become fatigued, and the comic panels is one of the tools it employs. I think Remedy achieved a good balance here. Originally, I wanted to pull off a summary of the plot here, and then I realized just how long this script already is and how long it's taken me to write it. So instead, I'll simply throw some moments I found the most memorable, not in terms of gameplay alone, but more related to everything else. While escaping from Jack Lupino's hotel, you encounter Rico Muerte, his Canolo getting all the cream taken out. While itself amusing, no, what lives rent-free in my head is Rico proceeding to run, pants around his ankles, dumping mag after mag from his Mag 10. Hunting down Vinny Gogniti in the city part of town, Max enters a small flat. There is someone in the toilet and their Ingram sits on the counter, which only recently did I realize is a homage to Pulp Fiction. The fucking Flamingo episode.
I have no idea what that means.
At one point, you run into two goons trying to disarm a bomb planted by the Russian mob.
So, green? No, not the green.
To proceed, you need to get through these doors, which are locked. Okay, never mind. I also enjoyed how, with good timing, you can use the pyrotechnics in the backstage of the Ragnarok Club to take out one of the bad guys.
I am the god of hellfire, and I bring you fire.
Josh Strife-Hayes? Never heard of him? Oh, one audio-related complaint. Speaking of Ragnarok, none of the audio sliders affects the music in the club. I wanted to put this supposedly alternative culture hub through the ultimate test of playing through it with Ministry's Bloodlines in the background, which it failed, because I couldn't turn off the damn
machine gun beat.
The sheer atmosphere when you approach Jack Lupino's inner sanctum is astounding.
The flesh of fallen angels, come to me all. Astaroth, Beelzebub, Asmodeus, Baphomet, Lucifer, Loki, Satan, Cthulhu, Lilith, blood to you all.
I'm also pretty sure that is not how you pronounce Cthulhu. Oh, or early in the game, during the Roscoe Station bank robbery, as you approach a certain door, you can listen on two goons, both realizing neither of them brought tools for the job.
All done here. Give me the detonator.
What are you talking about?
The detonator.
I thought you'd bring it.
You were supposed to bring it.
Yeah, right.
And many, many more. Are you not going to mention the nightmare sequences? No. We don't talk about the nightmare sequences in this house. Because they both fucking suck. Also, I know they are supposed to imply Max is suffering from survivor's guilt. What they do instead, at least to me, is implying some fucked up familial violence, managing to somehow make me more uncomfortable than what is colloquially known as the domestic abuse solo in the full cut of Disturbed's Down with the Sickness. The game is full of quotable lines, and despite presenting often quite a morbid story of revenge, it doesn't take itself super seriously. Someone summed up the writing as bordering on pastiche, and you know what? For all the controversial takes they made in their Max Payne video, I lean to agreeing with that one. Sure, it does falter past the initial rampage across the first chapter, with the exception of practically the final level I consider chapter 2 a bust, but it kinda comes around in the final third of the game. It doesn't reach the heights of the first chapter, no, but at least the writing suddenly remembers how to have fun. The enemies in the final chapter are often seen as bastards with how rough are they to fight, but unlike the dockhands in chapter 2, they at least exhibit some semblance of a character, be it with mercenaries discussing naming weapons or killer suits, talking about just wanting to be socially accepted, cause hey, this is just their job.
Helicopter, helicopter.
More importantly, to me at least, with the exceptions of the docks, seriously, you can remove that part altogether and the story won't suffer much, and maybe Max having one stupid fucking idea that goes horribly wrong, the entire narrative flows. Actually, most of the goddamn game flows. Pun not intended. And that was meant to be the end of the chapter about writing, but I've realized I didn't talk about something that bugs me. See, right now Sam Lake is infamous for his meta-humor, full of references too. And referencing stuff is not a big deal with me, as long as it's done the Team Kane way, when it's incorporated in a way you really need to know something to realize it's being referenced. Max Payne 1 has examples of that. The Pulp Fiction reference I mentioned earlier is one such example, I think. Another I wanted to bring up is the character of Alfred Woden. Alfred Woden through most of the game remains a cryptic, shadowy figure that contacts Payne through payphones and clearly holds a worrisome amount of knowledge. First time we meet the man himself is midway through the final chapter of the game, where he's presented as an aging man with one eye, the other covered with an eye patch. Sounds familiar? At this point, it's not difficult to figure out he's referencing the Allfather Odin of the Norse myth. But, well, if you know enough, you could make that connection earlier. That's a nice way to incorporate it into the story, and makes sense with how much Norse myth terminology is being used in the game. Nowadays, when Sam Lake writes, he puts characters like Thor or Odin Andersons, who used to have a band called the Old Gods of Asgard.
I can't even say Sam Lake you hack anymore, man. He has so many moments. Like it's not Sam Lake you hack is just like it's just such a like there's just so many moments.
Let's not even mention the character of Alex Casey, who is a blatant Max Payne insert, or should I say self-insert in more ways than one. What I'm getting at, there's going too far with references, even more so with self-referential stuff, and for Sam Lake's writing, I think Max Payne was the last game where he managed to pull things off in tolerable manner. Even in his next game, Max Payne 2, there are already examples of Lake basically jerking himself off, because that's how some of this stuff comes off more often than not. I don't know, that might be just me. Still, I find this shit eye-rolling at best. But that's in the future, which... funny, but I think my conclusion to this rant is that Sam's writing was the strongest when he didn't try to steal from his own past works. In Max Payne 1, he didn't really have room for it. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy his writing antics, but sometimes I'm getting close to sue him for damages to my dental health, because some of this stuff makes me grind my teeth, damn it. I want to say that Max Payne balances its story and gameplay perfectly, despite some shortcomings in every department. But I just fucking can't, can I? In the past, I've often criticized a certain Australian hack, no, not that one, for acting like him not experiencing certain issues, automatically meaning others are wrong. I won't name them, I'll just say they claimed Fallout 76 being good and functional when it originally released, or less egregiously so, calling Blood a fresh supply the faithful and best way to experience that classical piece of cock and ball torture.
One of the first screenshots from this remastered showed the fanatic throwing dynamite, which is a thing that he's not supposed to do, and I'm happy to say that they fixed this, and he does not, in fact, throw dynamite.
I fucking suck at Blood, and even I could see it was wrong. What I'm getting at is, I played through the game twice after not being able to do so for something close to a decade for this review. I want to say I approached the game as clear of any biases as I possibly could, and in my opinion, despite its shortcomings and often malicious encounter design, it's still great fun to play, not to mention the passion and attention to detail clearly on display. But I cannot deny the experience of others. What I want to propose instead is perhaps to give the game a try on hard-boiled difficulty, not on fugitive. I mean, someone had to have figured out how to unlock it in system files without having to beat the game on an, arguably, outright broken difficulty system. Sure, it will kick your ass, but it should be kicking your ass consistently, making it possible to actually get good. I should also probably mention, if you recall my Death Rally review, Max Payne on Steam is technically just fucked fresh after installing. In the past, I tried to fix it, following a guide, but failed. Turns out, I must have read something incorrectly in my first try and fucked something up. What I also didn't realize is that Steam doesn't remove everything from games falter upon uninstalling, just the files listed for the product. So I needed to manually remove some files before installing the game once again, apply fixes, and voila, suddenly I felt like a fucking idiot. I still think Remedy should make the damn thing playable out of the box, but fuck it, I can take the L and admit to making a mistake, which is the important part here.
Hello, it's been a while. Apologies for doing the ending thing a little differently this time. However, I think the length of my absence kinda requires a little more from me, I suppose. Some of you know that already, but 2024? Thus far? It wasn't good. It was, matter of fact, fucking atrocious, but yeah. Long story short, prolonged period of unemployment, rising costs of living, and the overall situation on the job market when it comes to game development. Are those factors fueling my imposter syndrome, depression, whatever? Doesn't matter, the result was the same. For the first, let's say, 5 months, I've been utterly bloody useless. That being said, I am humbled by the fact just how many people stayed by my side and supported me despite the fact that I've been hitting the lowest low since 2019, I want to say. I would like to shout out a few people, if I may. My old man, thanks to whom I hadn't been kicked out of my den just yet. Raya, Crow, and Nomad, who helped me proofread, fact-check, and overall gave feedback on the script. And, well, Osaks, thanks to whom I'm currently employed since June. By the way, I'm recording this at 5 a.m. and I had a very, very busy and rough 1.5 months, so bear with me. Another set of people that humbled me terribly over the past few months of silence and not uploading on YouTube are my Patreon supporters, who keep supporting me despite the fact that due to my mental issues I could not really give them anything at all. Those spiffing folks would be Len Uno, Guiderino, Łukasz Barański, Mewcio, Piotr, and Walrek. You people are absolutely fucking amazing, and I am humbled to have your support. Thank you. And thanks for watching and sticking until this point. I hope you enjoyed the video. But yes, now if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna finish this goddamn video, upload it, cancel my Adobe subscription, because they can go fuck themselves, and then I'm gonna get some sleep. It's been at least 3 months since I had a good sleep.